Shalom, my friends. Welcome to this week's word study. Heath asked me, how do I be blameless? He says, I struggle with some desires. And he's talking about 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verses 4 through 9, where we see the word blameless. I'm going to read that scripture for you in a minute. But first, let's look at this word we see throughout the scriptures in English as blameless. Here's the Otiot. This is Strong's number H5355. Strong's interprets it as blameless, exempted, free, guiltless, innocent. The Aramaic Hebrew word here is naki, and it is spelled nun, kaf, yod. Nun, we have picture of the seed. Yeshua is the good seed. There are only two seeds in the world, my friends, the good seed and the bad seed. Yeshua is the good seed. Satan is the bad seed. The seed nun represents life, perpetuation, unstoppable motion, and also points at offspring or heirs. Then we have kaf. It's a picture of an open palm. It speaks about bending, allowing to open yourself to change. It speaks about taming and subduing the flesh. It has to do with the work of Yeshua and the filling of the Ruach, without which it's not possible to tame your flesh, without which it's not possible to change anything about yourself. I'll get into that a little bit more. Then we have Yod, a picture of an arm and a hand. It has to do with your work, what you make. It has to do with your actions, what you do. It has to do with worshiping. To put it together, where we see the English word blameless, to be counted as blameless, or that you might be blameless before Yeshua, is saying that, first of all, you have the good seed in you, which is growing in an unstoppable way, making you the offspring and the heir of the good seed. Then it's saying that you are able to bend and allow Elohim to guide you. You are able to tame and subdue the flesh, and that you are receiving the filling of the Ruach. I want to stop there for a minute. Let me complete this, and then I'll go back to that again. It's hitting me. Yod, that your work and your actions reflect the fact that you worship Elohim and not the world, or not anything of darkness. I have to get back to Kaf because I stopped two times, talking about the filling of the Ruach. Number one, I said, you can't change anything about yourself, my friends. I don't care what it is, if alcoholism and you're trying to get off of booze, if you make attempts to change yourself and no longer be an alcoholic, without the filling of the Ruach, you will fail every time. You might be able to fool others, but you won't fool yourself or Elohim. I don't need to make such a strong example as alcoholism. Anything about yourself that you want to change in your life, If you try and do it by your own strengths, educating yourself, taking classes, reading books, having counsels, sessions, whatever, it'll always fail. No one can change anything about themselves. There's only one way that can be achieved, and that is the way, the path, tzad. The only way to the Father is through his Son. You have to make Elohim number one on a list of one in your life. You pray to him, you dedicate yourself to him, you ask him every day to reveal himself to you, and he will. And my point here about this is first you have to receive his indwelling ruach, his spirit. And when you pray to the Father and you tell him that you want to make him number one on a list of one in your life, and that you commit yourself to putting him first every day from this day forward throughout the rest of your days, he will reveal himself to you. And you ask him, you tell him you want Yeshua to be your Adon, your master, and that you want the Father to place his indwelling spirit in you, and he will. You can't ask him for these things unless he's calling you. No one will ever ask him sincerely for these things unless first he has called them. Then, and you might want to do a search on my YouTube channel, you'll see the little magnifying glass in the top right of the site. You click on that, and then you can type in there, just type in salvation, and you'll see I have a video about salvation, past, present, and future. I'll put a link at the end of this video to Scotty's website, where he's got that video on a page, along with a bunch of others, all about salvation. You can check that stuff out. I urge you to do so if you haven't. But my point is, there are different points to salvation. First, you receive his indwelling spirit. Then you have to receive the filling of his ruach. And that's what kaf is all about, receiving the filling. Without that, you will never tame or subdue the flesh. You will never achieve anything that you're trying to achieve, because you're trying to do it by your own strength and power, and therefore you're not recognizing Elohim as your master, your Adon. So, to be counted as blameless, or to be considered blameless or innocent, it's to be considered naki, to be considered offspring of Yeshua, heirs of Yeshua, having his seed growing unstoppably in you, to have the mark of his indwelling ruach, because you are able to tame the flesh. Actually, the ruach is doing it for you, but the evidence is there, and that shows through Yod, your work and your actions. The only way blamelessness can be attributed to you is through what he does, never through your own actions. Now, I'm going to read 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verses 4 through 9 to you, but if you have a Bible out, put it down, because what I'm about to read to you is not found in any English version of the Bible. I am going to read 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verses 4 through 9 to you in English, and I'm going to elaborate on it the best I can to bring out the flowers of the original Aramaic Hebrew and what's being said. So, here we go. I continually thank my Elohim for you because of the way you have come to pitch your tent with him which was given to you by Mashiach, Yeshua, pitching his tent with you, so that in him, in every respect, you were enriched, in full power and readiness of speech, to speak of your growing in him and his word with complete knowledge and illumination to give you full insight into its meaning. In this way, our witnessing concerning Yeshua HaMashiach was so confirmed and established and made sure in you, so that you are not consciously falling behind or lacking in any special spiritual endowment, the reception of which is due to the power of him pitching his tent with you, operating in your living experience by the Ruach HaKodesh, while you wait and watch, constantly living in hope for the coming and the revelation of our Adon Yeshua HaMashiach, who will establish and confirm you to the end, keeping you steadfast, giving you strength, and guaranteeing your vindication. He will be your warrant against all accusation or indictment, so that you will be blameless, guiltless, and irreproachable on the day of our Adon, Yeshua HaMashiach. Yahweh is faithful, reliable, and trustworthy, and therefore ever true to his promise, and he can be depended on. By him you were called into companionship and participation with his Son, Yeshua HaMashiach, our Adon. Hallelujah and Amen. Now, in closing, I want to take a look at the word we often see in English as holy. It's a pagan word. I don't like it because it's pagan. We see it in Strong's Exhaustive Concordance as number H6944. Here's the Otiot. And Strong's defines it as consecrated, dedicated, I give him credit for that one, hallowed, holy, saint. They say that, the original Aramaic Hebrew word is Qodesh. And Strong says that Qodesh could be translated as saint. Yeah, I don't know. Saint's a funny word. They also say it can be translated as holy. No, that's a pagan word. Dedicated, yes. I've always told you that my idea of Qodesh means dedicated. If I have something like this pendant is dedicated to Yahweh, my Elohim, and to absolutely nothing else. There's only one reason I made this. There's only one reason I wear it, and that is to esteem him, and that makes this Qodesh. It is dedicated to one thing and one thing alone. We look at Qodesh, and it is spelled Kaf, Dalet, Shin. Kaf. Again, we just looked at this one. It's a picture of an open palm. It has to do with bending and allowing yourself to be open to Yahweh's loving instructions that we receive through his word. It has to do with us taming and subduing our flesh. We don't do it. His indwelling Ruach does it, but we show evidence of it. It's because of the work of Yeshua and his indwelling Ruach. And then we have Dalet, the door. That is Yeshua. Those who are Qodesh, we back up to Kaf again, they bend and allow Yahweh's instructions to be enforced in their lives. They open themselves to him and his instructions through his word. They tame and subdue their flesh because of the indwelling Ruach. Then Dalet, those who are Qodesh, they are moving through the door. Yeshua is the door from the physical to the spiritual realm. They are learning to not worship in the physical or in the flesh, but to worship Yahweh in the spirit, in the Ruach. And then Shin, a picture of two front teeth. It has to do with cutting, separating, dividing things. Those who are Qodesh, they are cut and separated from the world. They do not worship the world. They worship Elohim. So to be Qodesh, you put Yahweh number one on a list of one in your life. You've received his indwelling Ruach, and therefore you are now able, because of the Ruach changing you, you are now able to tame and subdue the flesh and be more and more and more obedient to his word. You are moving from worshiping in the flesh to worshiping in the spirit, from worshiping in with your ego and trying to impress others that you know with your relationship that you have with Elohim. You're putting that aside now, and you're only concerned with how you're impressing Elohim with your relationship with Elohim. And Shin, you've been separated. Your interests in the world are gone, and your interest in his Malchut, his kingdom, is growing. That is what it means to be Qodesh, and that is what it means to be one of the Kodeshim, the plural word for Qodesh. And that's our study for this week, my friends. I hope and I pray, as always, that this has been a beracha to you and yours. Thank you for your support, and Abba willing, I'll see you next week. Shalom, my friends.
Now 2,000 years have gone by, it's another working day. Some would rather let it lie, but the question still remains.